Hello and welcome back to the Better Everyday Podcast. Back in the studio.
We are. I've been farming.
I know. You called me an hour ago from the middle of a field. It's amazing how fast you can get cleaned up.
I was out in the middle of 25 acres, just one strip at a time mowing.
So funny, the dichotomy of Darren Root. You get Bruno Cuccinelli in one moment and a cowboy hat and a hay straw out of your mouth on a tractor.
I had one of my B-ball hats on today, Better Everyday ball hats, along with Cuccinelli sweatshirt.
I picture a big thing of hay sticking out of your mouth. And
I haven't done that yet, but I should. But I've got this new Ventrac tractor. Gosh, I love it.
Not currently a sponsor of the show,
No,
but we're open to sponsorship.
Right? Go catch it on YouTube.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm excited to talk today. For us, I don't know when you're listening to this, but for us, it's right after tax season, which always feels a little giddy, a little bit of a deep breath.
Like the world opens up again.
Yeah, my wife had pretty crazy tax season this year, and we went to dinner last night, and she was telling everybody. The waitress came by, she's like, "We're celebrating."
Oh, yeah.
Like, "Oh, is it your anniversary?" "No, your birthday?" "Nope, tax season's over." So we had a good celebration last night, but it does feel like now you can kind of reset.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of like January 1st was, or
Kinda.
like the last day of school or something.
it's the last day of school. That's what it feels like. Freedom. Yeah. So, as we kind of pull our heads back up out of busy season, even just at Better Every Day, getting a chance to help people like reset a little bit. It's easy to think about the trendy topics, which we will be talking a lot about, whether it's AI, whether it's, new ways of sourcing staff, technologies, all of those things will be hitting hard.
Yeah.
But I think today I'm excited about this conversation that you and I started the other day about like some bigger things that give us some trajectory for those things.
Yeah. I mean, I love, the trendy things.
Yeah.
Again, trendy is probably not the word, but the current things.
The buzz. Yeah.
Right. Love that stuff. But without a core foundation, you can get caught up in the buzz and the hype and just the momentum of all the things that are happening.
Yeah.
I think that's what we want to spend a little bit of time talking about is what is a foundation or what does a core look like for somebody?
You know what it made me say that night after we had the conversation that we're about to have today, and we started that, my son, 17, going to be 18 here soon, just kind of wrapped up in the little things in his life. And I just got a chance to say to him, "Hey, what do you believe about this? What do you believe about this?" He's like, "Why are you asking me these questions?" And I said, "Well, I just had a conversation with Darren today. And what we said was, if you don't come down on the big things, the little things become the big things.
Yeah.
And then you end up making decisions based on little things." And I think that's where we drift, whether we're 17, 18, or we're whatever age. If we're not careful, we drift into the little things becoming the big things.
My side note, my YouTube, I like to watch some YouTube videos
Yeah.
early in the morning, having coffee before Michelle gets up. So it was probably 6:30 this morning, and I run across this one. It's what your 85-year-old self would tell your 60-year-old self. And it was the 7 things that your 85-year-old self has learned. It was pretty good.
You're a sucker for 7 things too, since Stephen Covey.
Oh yeah, that got me right off the bat. But it was really it kind of, a lot of it goes back to the same stuff. But yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Well, we've identified, and I think we need to start by like parsing this word belief, because we've identified 5 beliefs that we would like to kind of reset with in our own lives. And maybe that's useful for you as a listener. But I think this is something that I've been thinking about since we talked about it. But I think before we dive into what those 5 things are, just kind of the etymology of the word belief. Like, what do we mean by this? Because it's got a lot of baggage.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you say the word belief, most people immediately go to a religious
Faith of
connotation.
some sort. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not exactly what,
Hmm.
not even really what we're talking about.
Yeah. I think of it as like these strongly held baselines,
Maybe convictions.
convictions for the way that we live our lives.
Yeah,
And I think maybe the word belief is one of the things that keeps people from pursuing these five things
yeah,
because it does feel like somehow you have entered a religious or faith conversation when these are really just some of the baselines that we use to make the decisions in the everyday world.
yeah. I mean, it's what, from my perspective, it's what helps me not spin out of control
Hmm.
with all the modern um, things that are happening.
Yeah.
Whether that's AI, social media, go through the list of things, and you can spin out of control in that stuff.
For me, it's more retrospective. It's like these are the things that I look back on and realize where I spun out of control. When things get out of control, you start to like do a post-mortem on the conversation and go, "Oh, this is what I forgot about what I actually care about."
Yeah.
Um,
We being me, you, TJ, and Andy, we're sitting in the barn the other day. Fireplace was on, and it sort of hit us, as we're talking about marketing and what we wanted to accomplish. You can, unless you understand what it is that what you're really after
yeah.
at the end of the day, what you're really convicted about, it's easy to get caught up in, wanting to have 100,000 followers doing this and that.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, you're just spinning without, I guess Stephen Covey would say, without an end in mind.
Yeah.
And,
Blown in the wind,
yeah,
and so I think these five things today are just more like categories of life
yeah,
that what I'm trying to do, and I wrote about it in my book a little bit. Three of these definitely I dug a lot deeply into, but just to as a constant reminder that this is who I am at my core. That AI isn't.
yeah,
That I can use it as it supports and empowers these things, but that's not what I care about. That even what's in my bank account is not one of these five things. Those are all things that help me get to the things I care about most.
yeah. I mean, it feels like, at least in my last 65 years, we're living in a pretty crazy time.
Hmm.
And so it's easy to get all,
Real.
we've talked about this,
Yeah.
coming in hot and all those other
Uh-huh.
things in the past. But yeah, let's talk about the five things that you
Yeah.
should be thinking about.
So I want to talk about your work, your health, other people, your opinions, and your personal evolution, just changing. Um, and as it kind of has with you and I since we met, it starts with like, what are we doing? What is the work that we believe we should be doing, not just to fill our bank accounts or to fill our Monday afternoons, but what is it that we are actually doing to create usefulness, to create worth in the world around us?
Yeah, I mean, I think, gosh, it's such a great question, and something that we've been trying to help firms with for a long time. But whether you're working for a firm, or you own a firm,
Hmm.
or you just have another job, or you own another kind of company, um, what is it that
Yeah.
you're really trying to accomplish in that endeavor? Is it just to grow and generate money, or is there something more? And so figuring out what it is that you believe about what it is that you're trying to do, or what are you convicted about? What do you want? What's the end in mind?
Yeah.
I think it's just such a great question to ask. I mean, this is why we were talking about it in our marketing meeting. I mean, it's
Hmm.
like, what I mean,
What are we trying to do?
right?
Yeah.
What is it that we really want? Because then you can take this big world, and you can narrow it down to
Yeah.
something that you're capable of really focusing on.
So here's the way it plays out for me. When I think about this, I don't think there's a right answer to any of these things. I think it's about like digging into what motivates you, what gets you at your best. When it comes to work, it could be that what is your why in terms of work is about leaving a legacy for your kids, or for you. It could be that it's about impacting humans. It could be that it's, for you, sometimes I think there is this drive to leave the accounting profession different than you found it.
Yeah.
And all of those things play into this. There's not a right answer to this, but where we get off the rails is when we don't answer it.
If we never even ask the question.
Right.
And think about it.
Yeah. So it plays out for me in a daily way. You mentioned our conversation near the fireplace the other day. I get LinkedIn messages all day long. I've tried to get off of everything else, but I get LinkedIn messages because so many of our members and everybody's on there. So I get these LinkedIn messages and I see somebody that I respect, whether in the accounting profession or somewhere else, and I think, dang it, I could do that. And
the FOMO, right?
It is. It's like FOMO, but it's also like I could see myself doing that or trying that. And it's easy without going back to that question, what am I trying to do? All of a sudden I find myself walking through the woods trying to get a specific shot that John Acuff took, and it's not productive, and it doesn't lead me where I want to go.
I have the exact same FOMO.
Yeah.
And maybe we all do to a degree. We see something else and we're like, oh, I could do that, or I want to try that. But we never ask the question, why in the hell would I want to do that?
Right.
I mean, is that really what I want? Do I really want to spend the time, the energy, and effort to get more likes? Is that really what I'm after?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the answer to that may be yes.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it's no.
Yeah.
I want to be on my tractor mowing 25 acres, but I also want to have an impact on the profession.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the best way for me to do that? That's what I spend a lot of time thinking about.
Yeah.
But I do have the FOMO.
Yeah. I think the FOMO takes over if you don't consistently ask this question.
I think you have to ask it over in all 5 of the things that we're going to talk about. I think you have to ask it over and over again.
Yeah. So let's talk about the next one. We're going to run out of time if we don't.
Yeah.
And that's health. Physical, mental, spiritual, if that's important to you. I have read this article this week that it's a study started in 1980. So, we're deep into this now, the analytics of the study. And the study was, how does your current posture towards your physical health affect the next decade of your life? And what they basically came to is the work that you do so I just turned 50. It affects me a little bit in my 50s, but what I'm doing is building my life for my 60s. That's really what's happening right now, is that I am preparing myself to play with my grandkids.
Yeah.
And not as much about how I look in front of the camera during a podcast right now. It's more about whether or not I'm going to be in the kind of shape to live the kind of life I want in the following decade. And that, to me, is life-changing. To think that I'm not just trying to look better today, but that I'm trying to have a better life later.
It's so funny you say that, because the video this morning I was watching on the 60-year-old self.
Yeah.
The 85-year-old saying, health is the most important thing. That was number one for them. And what they did in their 60s was going to prepare them for their 70s and 80s. So if you're not taking care of your body in your 60s, and you're saying in your 50s, then the way you live out your 70s and 80s declines. Again, another YouTube video, but I got caught up on the 5 things. I guess it was 5 years. So I watched this couple who had moved to France. They'd moved to Paris. They were Americans, moved to Paris and had been there 5 years. And they were talking about, the differences between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was pros and cons. But one of the things they talked about was how different the food is in France.
Huh.
And the freshness of the food. They would, the differences were, we go to Kroger once a week, we stock up, we put it in the refrigerator, and, we eat off that or we go out and eat.
Mm-hmm.
Over there, it's all local farmers and they're bringing
You
their
get it
produce
every day.
every day
Yeah.
and they're fixing fresh stuff. And Europe has a lot more regulations around, pesticides and things
Mhm.
like that than we do. So what this couple was saying was when they would come back to the US, at which they would do 3-4 times a year, they would actually get somewhat ill a short time after from eating the food as opposed to what they had
Wow.
been eating.
Even the stuff we think is
Right.
healthy.
But right.
Yeah.
I mean, because you think about it, it's all getting trucked in. It's had
Yeah.
pesticides. I mean, it's just
There's a reason I'm eating a mango in December.
which is what they say.
Indiana.
You can't get Brussels sprouts
Right.
over there except for these few months. The
Yeah.
Brussels sprouts are available. But you think about the way we get our bodies accustomed to really corporate America food versus fresh food.
Yeah.
And the impact that has on us, whatever that is, because we're talking about health here.
Yeah.
And so what we put in our bodies. I mean, I've been trying to be even more conscious since I watched that video a week ago.
Mhm.
And it's really, really hard.
It is. Especially because everything is set up for the opposite,
It is.
And
And my body's accustomed.
yeah.
A bag of chips looked really good.
Chick-fil-A sounds real good in the end. Yeah. I think when I think about that study from that started in 1980, it affects my daily choices. If I want, oh man, I love a Pop-Tart. And I just heard that
You've always liked
I love strawberry Pop-Tarts. And I just heard it is the #1 worst food in America.
Yeah, I mean, that or cheese puffs or something.
I mean, they say, well, Chiefs Plus, I think, is on the list somewhere, but they counted down. I'm like, please don't be Pop-Tarts. Please don't be Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts. And I love them so much. And you have one and, and you think, well, I'll feel a little poor this afternoon, maybe. But you start thinking about it as like, no, this is a way of life that's going to affect, and one Pop-Tart's not a big deal, but as you start to build those habits, you start thinking, this is changing the next 10, 20, 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
And when you don't, I think the reason this is such an important part of our 5 core beliefs is if you don't come back to this on a regular basis, you just drift into Chick-fil-A, Pop-Tarts, and the next thing you know, your body is made of this, and your next decade is changed by it.
Yeah.
And I think nobody sets out and says, boy, I would really like to be in my 60s and not be able to get on the floor and play with my grandkids. But it's too late to start then in a lot of cases.
Well, I hope it's not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe not too late, but you're not going to undo some of the things that you've done early.
I mean, so the questions we're asking today is what do you believe about this stuff?
Yeah.
What do you believe about work? What is it you're really trying to accomplish? And the same for health.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the best thing that I did from a health perspective is start walking, 6.5, 7 miles a day.
Yeah.
I don't know, when I turned 40. Everything I read, that was one of the best changes that I made. That and reducing stress, I think. But I still had this gap in eating.
Yeah.
I don't opt for fruits and vegetables all the time or clean food all the time. And I need to.
My beliefs about mental health are the same. I've changed drastically. I used to think of like therapy, mental like help that way, as like going to the mechanic because something was broken. Oh, my shocks or struts need to be replaced. It's time to go. My brain is not working right. It's time to go to this thing. And now in the past 4 or 5 years, my beliefs have changed about my mental health. And I think of it like an oil change.
Yeah.
This is not fixing something. It's preventing me getting to something that I know is not healthy. And I think if I get too busy and I stop remembering this conversation about my health and about the things that I believe around my health, I won't have those meetings because I don't feel like I need them.
Yeah.
And I won't create health around my mental status. And I think, when I think about whether it's your physical health, your mental health, or your beliefs about work, there is this sense that it's almost an eye roll until it gets bad. And thinking of this as something that you approach on a regular basis to reset, I think is really important.
Yeah. It's not a problem until you're burned out or you find out that, what you've been eating is, making you sick or
And then you've created a habit.
yeah.
Yeah. So the next of this is probably the one that affects me the most on a daily basis. And that is, what do you believe about being right?
Hmm.
What do you believe about the importance of your own opinion and about other people adopting and agreeing with that opinion? The obvious place to go is politics, but this happens with the people in your life that you love every day. The people that you work with every single day have a difference of opinion. And the way that you treat your own opinion and the posture you take towards your opinion and others, man, it leads to so much dissatisfaction. It's so much unnecessary angst.
So much of that seems like it was formed in childhood.
Yeah.
Well,
It's your safe place.
my family did this on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Must be the right way to do it.
Well, ours did it this way. So, I remember Michelle and me and Michelle arguing about these things, when we were 20 years old. It's like, well, but you're supposed to go to my house on Christmas Eve. But I don't want to go to your house on Christmas Eve.
Supposed to. Yes, exactly. And how much angst have we created because we have this way that we see the world that is important and good and healthy, but we turn it into something that is polarizing.
Yeah.
And this happens to me so quickly. If I don't keep coming back to, well, just because I see the world this way doesn't mean it's the right way to see the world.
Yeah.
And I have a faith background that I am moonwalking away from in some ways, carefully, because I don't want to leave it all. But there's some things that I'm getting away from because there is this unhealthy feeling that it creates in me that I have to polarize myself from half the world, that there is a good and a bad, and I'm always on the good. Nobody's ever the villain of their own story. Have you noticed that?
I love that.
Nobody's ever the villain of their own story, but there are a lot of villains.
Yeah.
So that means sometimes you are the villain.
Yeah.
And being able to step back and go, what am I missing just because I see the world this way? I think it's really important.
One of the, it was one of our events we did in Indianapolis a number of years ago, and I think you're the one that pulled up the quote from I think it was Aristotle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to butcher this, but it's the ability to hold two thoughts in your mind at the same time.
The true mark of intelligence is the ability to hold two thoughts in your mind at the same time without choosing one or the other.
And that, ever since I heard that, I've really tried to practice that a lot more.
Yeah.
I have noticed as I've aged, I'm much more comfortable, and we've talked about this before, in not feeling like I have to be right.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I don't know if it's a testosterone thing or what it is. And I see it in my kids.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's that, but this need to be right. And, Alex and he loves a good argument with me.
Yeah.
And, my comment after we discuss it for a little bit is time will tell.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. I'm not disagreeing with you, but
yeah,
let's take a look at this in a couple of years and see how it worked out.
I do. The older I get, the more I have this sense when I hear somebody really, really pontificating and trying to convince me of something, I have this feeling of like, that's cute. Like you're that's real cute because you're going to disagree with yourself real soon.
Yeah.
Because I do all the time.
Yeah.
And I think being able to remember that we should hold these things loosely because the person you were 10 years ago disagrees with a lot of the things the person that you are now.
Boy, that is so true. And you kind of have to get some age on you to realize that, oh, maybe
this is
a pattern a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think this is probably the biggest source of pain in my life. When I think through the relationships I've had, the jobs I've had, the people I've hurt, the people that have hurt me, holding my own opinion, which now I have a total opposite of opinion on most of these things, holding this opinion so deeply that I hurt people and am hurt by them has created more pain in me than any of the rest of these beliefs.
And I don't think we're saying, as it relates to this particular belief, that you have to always be right.
No.
I don't think we're saying that you shouldn't have an opinion.
Yeah.
And that you shouldn't hold your opinion strongly. But it doesn't mean the other person's necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
And the ability to not get bent out of shape about that.
Yeah.
I mean, we watch this all day, every day, if you turn on the news or anything else. But the ability to not get bent out of shape about that and be okay with somebody else having a different opinion is life-changing to me, because it takes my stress level way down, that I don't have to go convince everybody that I'm right about something.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. I think we're at a stage where it feels really good to not have to be polarized.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you have to somehow let go of what you care about, but choosing to not let something
grind your gears.
Oh my gosh. It just is freedom. It
is.
really is freedom. And if you don't choose it, which is, again, why we're talking about these things today, if you don't choose it, it won't accidentally happen. You will drift into
Because everybody
polarization.
around you is taking a position on something.
It's what sells. You know what's funny? I think I said this before. I've noticed this was about myself. 5 days a week, I get a CNN message every morning. You call it whatever you want. I get it from CNN every morning. And I read it, and it's terrible. 5 awful things that just happened.
Yeah.
That's not what they call it, but that's what it feels like. 5 awful things that happened that you need to be aware of. On the weekends, they call it 5 good things. I never read the weekends.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I don't really need to know about this good thing that happened in Kansas. What I really want to know is this affect me and my health and so, I mean, it's human nature to gravitate towards things that are hard and polarizing, and we have to choose.
Must be, because that's what
sells.
That's what's selling. But I think the belief we're talking about is, again, not that you don't have a strong belief in whatever the area is. It's just, fantastic, you have that, but be okay with the fact that somebody else has something different.
Yeah.
Because they probably had that opinion because of the tradition or the family or whatever that they grew up in, and they haven't changed that, and that's fine.
You know what? The way this affects business, I find myself with our business doing this a lot. I just heard this analogy. I think it's awesome, that when you go to buy a drill bit from the hardware store, you don't want a drill bit. You want a hole. You don't care about the drill bit.
Right.
What you want is the hole. And if you're not careful and you just keep building your business and addressing your customer base, trying to sell them the drill bit, you forget that what they actually want is not you, and it's not your stupid drill bit. It's a hole.
That's fantastic. I really like that analogy.
Yeah. But if I start to believe that they want me because I'm right and I'm smart and I'm good and they're wrong and I'm right, I missed the whole point of this thing. And they go after somebody else who can make the whole better.
Oh, for the longest time, I thought I was the only person that could do a tax return. I didn't realize there was 349 million other returns getting prepared in the United States or something. But, it's, you do. Gosh, had I realized early on that what they really wanted was a hole.
I love that.
I
just
would,
love that analogy.
much
But
better,
it's a reminder to me that I think a lot of myself.
Yeah.
And that most other people don't. That's what my brother said when I started going to the gym. He's like, what's keeping you from going to the gym? I said, I feel stupid in there. And he goes, well, that's just arrogant. Like, why is that arrogant? And he said, because you think anybody's watching you.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying not to die. They're lifting heavy things. Nobody cares what you're wearing. Nobody cares what you're doing. And I think we live our lives.
Yeah.
So the next one is other people, your beliefs about other people. And I think of this as just the way you treat the humans around you. I've got 3 categories for these as I think about them. One is people I love. which sometimes this is the hardest of the group.
Yeah.
The second category is people I don't know very well, but I interact with. I think of the waitress that I treat as though she's part of the furniture if I'm too busy. And then the third is people that suck. Just people that actually really are hard to deal with. And I think the beliefs that I have about what I care about and the way I treat all three of those groups of people have a serious impact on the decisions that I make on a regular basis.
Where do you think that core belief about how you treat people? Because I don't know whether people ever really think about that, but I suspect that you do. Where do you think that core belief comes from?
That's a different podcast. But I think for me, if I'm honest, when I'm at my worst, I think that core belief is about people pleasing. It's about people liking me. And if I'm not careful, that's what I'll drift into. I'll just tell Darren whatever he wants to hear so that he likes me and we get through this. And then we end up someplace that I end up getting mad later. Or I won't have that hard conversation with my brother because I don't want to upset the cart right now and I want him to think I'm a nice guy, but he crossed the line I needed. And so at my worst, that core belief comes from me trying to make people like me. And I think that's survival. I think there's the caveman in me is saying that's how I stay safe, is that I keep the people around me liking me. I think if I can be at my best, that core belief has to do with what I believe about what I'm doing here. Like, what am I actually doing on the earth? And how, when I am laying in the bed and it's time, what actually mattered. And I think in that moment, unless something changes between now and that moment, what I want most in my life is to impact the humans and make their lives a little easier, a little less pain. Whether that's the girl who waits on us at the club and the conversations that we have over and over again. She's not my family. I don't work with her. There's nothing I'll get from her.
Yeah.
Or it's somebody who I don't like very well, but maybe we could still have an interaction that makes sense. And then, of course, the family that I want around me when I'm in that bedroom. I really do believe that's where this core belief comes from, is what I think is most important when it's all done. What about you?
I think that I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about that. I mean, I do, but not a huge amount of time thinking about that at a real micro level. At a macro level, I grew up in the Midwest. And so, I'm just generally a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I see this because, when I go to Florida, we have Canadians that come down, we have the Midwesterns that come down, and then we have the East Coast people that come down. And, we have this tennis group, and so we have a microcosm of that. And Midwest people are always super nice.
Yeah.
Northeast people.
I always feel like they're talking like don't you know?
That'd be the Minnesota.
North Dakota.
But there's this one guy he got nicknamed this year Pleasant Pete.
Where's Pete from?
Pete's from Boston.
Okay.
And we talk about, he's like, why is it that you Midwestern people have to say hi when you're out walking to whoever walks past you? He's like, I walk past somebody and somebody says hi, I'm like, screw you.
It sounds like Pleasant Pete might be a little bit of making fun of him.
This is how we got Pleasant Pete.
Okay.
So the Canadians nicknamed him Pleasant Pete, but the Canadians are always super nice. So at a general level, I think I'm a Midwesterner, and generally I like to be nice to people.
Yeah.
But I think getting down to the micro level, I probably haven't spent enough time thinking about that beyond being nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to, what I want to do is think about, what they're, what, whoever I'm interacting with,
Yeah.
like where they're coming from, like what's their day been like, or that they're a human being.
Yeah.
And that, it could be that they, just had a fight with their spouse, or they've had a bad day, or whatever those things might be whenever I encounter somebody that's unpleasant. So I don't know. It's a great question. I need to work on what my real core beliefs
I
are
think
there.
these are so important. And this one brings it even more to the forefront that if you're going to be a partner with somebody, whether it's a life partner or a business partner, or do something important together, you don't have to align on these things,
Right.
but understanding at
Yeah.
the core where these things, what do you believe about this thing,
Yeah.
is so important that I think it can really be the beginning. Like if you're just coming out of tax season, or you're in a moment where you could have a deep breath with your partner and say, what do you believe about these 5 things? No arguments, no good, bad. It's just begin to think. Because I just learned something about you that you haven't thought through that.
Yeah.
I grew up in a house where my mom and dad gave away their car. They had no money, and they gave away their car because they had 2. And
I could see them doing that.
they did it more than once
Yeah.
in my life, and they still do. They still give away everything they have. And so, that's incredibly, in my life, that's what I think of as the kind of person I want to be.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that that's the right way, or that, but so I think it's just important to say, what does it mean to you to treat people well? And why or why not is that important to you? In those 3 categories, because people you love, you treat a certain way, sometimes better and sometimes worse.
Yeah.
People you don't know, this is how I know if someone is truly a nice guy, or if they want something. It's, let's go to lunch together and see how you treat the person who brings us food.
Mm.
Because if you treat them like they're part of the furniture, now I know why you're treating me well, because there's something that I can give you, something that you can get from me, you can't get from them.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to choose those things is really important.
So you got family, then you've got some friends, and you have some acquaintances, and then you've got people generally, and that's probably a decent framework to think about.
I think so. So, we talked about your work, we talked about your health, we talked about other people, we talked about your opinions. The last one is, I just used the word evolution here. I think because I grew up in an evangelical I really like that word, because I like turning it on its ear a little bit. But the fact that we would have a belief about our evolution as a person, whether that's the way we treat people, maybe it's all 4 of these things, but it's also just growing, getting better, getting smarter, getting more useful, whatever it is. I think we all have this inborn belief that we're either just surviving, or we're actually getting better until we can't.
In this particular one, I like to think about this one as having a belief of a lifelong learner,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that's constantly trying to learn something new from somebody else.
Yeah.
And not mentioning any names, but I have one person that's fairly close to me, who has never read a book since getting out of high school, and has no desire to read, keep up with, with what's going on, any of these things. And I see how painful it is for that person as he's getting older, because just his whole thoughts and beliefs and about growing have left him out of the conversation, and very narrow-minded, very stuck. If you stop learning new things when you're in high school, not that you're not learning new things by experiences, but not really
intentionally,
right, trying to learn
Yeah.
and grow as a person and evolve, getting stuck in a period, which is really, when you think about it, it's really easy to get stuck.
Oh yeah.
Because, raising a family, small children, trying to grow a company,
Survival.
health, all these other things that you're trying to do. I see my kids in survival mode
Yeah.
a lot.
Just get the kids to bed and collapse.
They feel like a
Remember
great day.
Yes, exactly.
But to tack on to that you want to be a lifelong learner. I think it makes such a difference in all these other beliefs that we just had. If you can continue to want to learn.
I love that. So in the book, I wrote about the Great Conversation, which I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the concept of the Great Conversation is the moment that the first human took animal blood and made a drawing on a cave. We began a conversation as humanity. And every human since has had the opportunity to be a part of the conversation. Learn, grow, test things, tell stories, create hypotheses, and then test them and disprove or prove them and build on the shoulders of the people that came before us. Part of what I got so excited about writing the book was that I want to be a part of the conversation. And the moment I stop learning, the moment I stop contributing, even if I do feel like it's mundane to write another blog post, to write another thing, I've stopped contributing to the great conversation. I've stopped learning. I've stopped building. And I think it's a shame to not want to be a part of that. Writing the book was one of the joys of my life. I don't know if I'll ever do it again because it was one of the hardest things I've ever done too. But I feel as though it is my contribution, for better or for worse, to the great conversation. And it wouldn't have happened had I not worked really hard at continual growth. Now, the other thing that happens is in 3 years, I'm going to read that book and go, oh my gosh, I was such an idiot. Because I've grown, I hope. I've learned, and now I want to write another one, or I want to go burn all the copies of that one. Whatever it is, I think that commitment to lifelong learning, it sounds trite, but if you don't choose it, you'll find yourself an old person and not have chosen it.
Yeah, I think it's just such a life-changing thing.
Yeah.
To be a lifelong learner. And I think you have to have a belief that that's what you want to be.
Yeah.
I told you the guy that I always go back to that inspired me was a guy I never met, only saw him in passing. So I'm reading into whatever the situation was.
Yeah. He made a big impact on you for a guy you never even spoke to.
He was, at the time, seemed like a much older man. So I'm going to guess at the time he was in his late 70s. But he was in Starbucks in Chicago, off Rush Street, which doesn't even exist there anymore. But he's sitting there with, mic or AirPods. They hadn't even come out yet.
Oh yeah.
But it was the ones that, are wired, plugged into his, MacBook Pro, sitting there having his coffee, and you could just tell this guy was a lifelong learner, and he was plugged into what was modern at the time. And he really inspired me to think, I want to, when I'm 80 years old, I want to be like that guy, that I'm still plugged in. Whatever, today it feels like it's going to be some level of AI. I'm still plugged in. I'm still
or a new tractor.
I'm still being a part of the great conversation in some way.
It's awesome. Well, I think just to kind of put a bow on these 5 things, obviously I'm not trying to be a proponent for what the beliefs should be in any of these. But if you don't write, to me, it's writing.
Yeah.
If you don't write and then have a conversation with someone and talk about this on a regular basis, you end up building these things accidentally on things that don't matter as much. You end up, the small little decisions in your life drive what you say. And, I think what might be as telling as you answering these questions is to give this to somebody who spends a lot of time with you and say, based on the way John lives, what do you think he thinks about people?
Yeah.
What do you think he thinks about growth? What do you think he thinks? And I think the older I get, I would love to be able to match up what I believe with what people see in me. And the only way to do that is to be verbal about it, to say, this is what I believe. And now I'm going to mold my life around that.
You know, I would say if we didn't have our relationship, I wouldn't be as evolved.
Yeah, I feel that way too.
And, just having somebody that you can talk about these 5 beliefs, and because you're not going to settle on something probably for a life. You're going to continue to evolve and grow.
Let's hope.
All those sort of things. But having somebody that you can communicate with, have coffee with, build a friendship with, and discuss these things, I think is just part of the journey.
Maybe should have been one of our beliefs. That's good. Well, this is a great conversation. I think this is just the beginning. We're gonna drive a lot of our combined thought leadership this year with some of these concepts, because I think it's so important to the way we see the world around us. So,
great conversation, John.
Well, I hope you heard something today that moves you forward. Thanks for joining us today on Better Every Day, and we'll see you next time.